Thanks to everyone, Duncan, for inviting me to give a little talk. So I work at the University of Portsmouth and been collaborating with Carl and Duncan for a few years now. I'm just going to talk about some of the research we've been doing very recently. And I know, speaking to some of you here today, some of you have actually been involved in the study that we did this summer as well. So thanks very much to you for taking part. So it's to do with sort of like multi-sensory sort of like work and trying to sort of use our other senses to kind of, see if we can, influence and hopefully include lots of sense of smell and enjoyment of eating. You've heard a lot about this today already in terms of, one of the major things about losing sense of smell is kind of loss of enjoyment of sort of eating, and the kind of whole kind of experience is a little bit sort of muted, if you like. So trying to sort of see whether we can do anything from a psychological and a psychobiological kind of perspective to improve things there. And then from a related kind of research domain then that can potentially help with that is you've got this idea of multisensory perception. You've heard a little bit about that today from some of the other talks, that you think of like really rich experiences that happen in your life, necessarily they're multisensory. Some of the kind of classic work that relates to what I'm talking about here comes from sort of an academic based on Oxford. A few years ago he did a classic study with potato crisps. It seems quite innocuous and it seems quite a fun type study to do, but basically had people rate potato crisps, always the same kind of potato crisp whilst they had headphones on, and you adjusted the actual volume with actually, the sound of the actual mastication that the crisp was making. And you got them to rate the actual freshness and how much they liked the potato crisp. And what they found is that when they increased the volume, people rated the crisp as fresher, they liked it a lot more. And before that, everyone was thinking, well, why would the sound in your kind of mouth matter to, the actual, to how, much you like the actual food? And so there's various sort of reasons why that might be the case. Some might be evolutionary reasons, where you think about, if you're crunching into an apple, that might be a signature of how fresh the actual sort of like food is or something like that. Interestingly, a chap at Oxford advised me that in terms of companies and their kind of production values in a way, that comes into it as well. So you probably, like me, quite like the Magnum sort of chocolate ice creams. It's got a very characteristic crackle when you bite into the chocolate there. Apparently a few years ago, the makers removed that kind of quality, that texture on the actual ice cream, sort of lolly, and they got sort of so many complaints in that the consumers wanted that kind of crack back because that was very distinctive, that kind of connection, and a particular brand obviously, but they actually brought it back just because of that. So you can sort of see the texture, this multi-sensory kind of thing has a lot of uses. Okay, and we did some studies ourselves a couple of years ago. It was actually related to people who are picky eaters, not to people with smell and taste disorders, but we found that the actual plateware colour that food was served in actually had an influence in sort of how sort of the different dimensions of people rated the food. So they rated it as significantly more saltier if the food was served in a blue bowl compared to a white bowl, things like that. So again, there's quite some interesting sort of like things you can do there. And there's other research to show texture is important as well in terms of these multi-sensory type effects there. So then the big question then that you're probably all interested in is then can we harness some of this kind of knowledge to see whether we can improve sort of eating experience among people who have got smell and taste disorders there. So then, obviously, for most people, the objective kind of like flavour is actually severely reduced. So we're kind of, in a way, is this kind of like phantom, if you like, or we sort of, influence this, sort of by the sort of back door, as it were, by just manipulating other sort of senses and kind of like enhancing the eating experience then. So this is sort of study protocol. So recruited participants from our own University of Portsmouth, and then also you guys from Fifth Sense. And individuals had to travel to Portsmouth. It was a face-to-face type study. So this was kind of the protocol then that we actually followed in the study. So we had individuals complete an odour dysfunction questionnaire, sort of measures like quality of life, people who lost a sense of smell. We did the odour function threshold test, which we heard a little bit about today. So it's an objective test. So my research assistant can take 20-30 minutes to do, so it does take quite a long time, and actually arrives at an objective measurement of how sort of somebody, the lowest concentration they can actually detect the actual odour and then reliably. And then the fun part was the food rating task. So a little bit about this more in the next slide. And then we sort of had a sort of bespoke kind of like questionnaire to sort of try to understand, you know, the food eating experiences of individuals and whether they could offer up any advice to other people, you know, who've lost a sense of smell and taste, how to enhance the experience, and any other thoughts that they had there. Yeah, so the actual food rating task then, so there are basically 3 different modalities or senses that we were interested in this study then. So the first one was vision then. So we had biscuits served in different sort of coloured bowls. Okay, and in texture we had savoury snacks that were made up of different shapes, the actual snacks themselves then. Participants were blindfolded for that one because obviously if they could sort of see the food all the time, and then it wouldn't be much fun then. And then the final one, it was sound then. We were looking at the sound, rather than the sound that the food was making, the actual sound in terms of the music that was playing through headphones whilst they were actually tasting the different foods then, because lots of work has shown that sort of music evokes different mood states, and so we thought, you know, maybe this might interact with the actual perception of the food and it might help things there then. Okay. Yeah, so the ratings, whilst they were doing these different type of things then and tasting the food in different coloured bowls or the music or what have you, then we sort of asked them to sort of rate the pleasantness of the actual food, and then other sensory characteristics such as flavour, intensity, saltiness and things like that. This was the actual characteristics of the actual sample, so you can see we've got quite a kind of broad sort of array of participants then, including some individuals with congenital sort of sense of smell as well then. So your preliminary findings then, so this was from the threshold test then. So just see if I've got the, oh yeah, that's working there. So yeah, along this axis here is the number of participants, and then these are the threshold scores here then. So the higher the score, the better the sense of smell of the individual then. So as expected, most people kind of in the range there where they've got very, very sort of low sort of like sense of smell then, as you'd expect. But there were a lot of people sort of up here on the higher end of the spectrum, so it was kind of surprising why they might wish to take part in the study when, if they're scoring sort of above 10, an undergraduate sample of people without sense of smell and taste disorder, so, you know, healthy participants, you might say, in that respect. So even in that sample, they were getting around a mean of 10. So these people up here really probably got fairly intact sense of smell, and certainly, you know, on this test that we actually completed. So this is an example of the threshold test, and you've actually seen this already. One thing that was interesting, we took the odour dysfunction questionnaire score, okay, and we actually did a test to sort of see for people if they had either low or high threshold score, how that related to their kind of quality of life that was measured by this questionnaire. So a higher score means they've got a better quality of life. So you can sort of see people who have a better sense of smell have a better quality of life there according to the data here from this study then. Okay. One thing that was interesting, we spoke a little bit about this today, is the propensity to actually gain weight if you lose your sense of smell. And some of you may know this, that you generally find that roughly half people put on weight, but half people lose weight. So there's not any kind of one-size-fits-all. And something that's shown from the previous research is that it seems to be people that lose sense of smell at a younger age seem to be more likely to put on weight. And this is actually borne out by some of the data we've collected here then. So even though no change is the most kind of common really, when we look at weight gain, that seems to be more common in people who've lost their sense of smell at a younger age then. So given by these sort of like younger age groups here, whereas in the older groups, hardly anyone was like gaining weight then. It's quite interesting data there. It seems to kind of be constant with previous research. Yeah, in terms of the sort of other information that individuals actually offered up during the study, so in terms of enjoyment, experience, and they could offer any sort of advice. So in terms of when they lost their sense of smell, what kind of things they were actually sort of doing to sort of counteract that. So using different types of food textures, crunchy salads, textures and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, so a number of participants were doing that, and I've highlighted some of the ones that I thought perhaps a little bit more unusual, using things like thin toast and almonds. So this kind of idea of using texture a lot to kind of, garner some kind of extra sort of flavour characteristic and enjoyment then. Adding extra sort of like spices and herbs as well, that was quite common. So you can see here the examples of this one. I thought adding herbs to potatoes, I sort of hadn't thought of that one, but that might be quite useful to kind of try as well. Visuals as well were used. So this is the actual, the food itself then, the colour of the food. So a number of individuals using foods of different colours to try to enhance that eating experience. I was interested by this one, avoid beige dinners. I'm not quite sure what that means. I guess sort of like foods that are a little bit dull, I guess, in colour. So that was an interesting bit of information there. So any other practices then? So I thought this was quite interesting in terms of, try to remember the taste and smell of food retrospectively when eating then. So yeah, kind of using your memory to enhance what you're eating at the moment then. So maybe if you have a kind of clear idea of what food used to taste like, use that information to enhance the current experience then. That I thought was really interesting. Cook as normal and hope for the best as well, so this perhaps feeds into this other idea of maybe, acceptance and making the best of the situation. So we also asked individuals to sort of like rate sort of how important certain aspects of like cooking and food preparation was to them. So yeah, cooking and food generally, so not at all to extremely, the food flavour and the overall eating experience. So yeah, on a kind of these like visual analogue scales from 0 to 100, I think all these characteristics were pretty much the same then. So around the kind of halfway mark. Any other sort of like feedback, the tips they might offer to other individuals who've lost their sense of smell? So yeah, so some interesting information here then as well. Yeah, so eat, because they need to, not because they want to. So perhaps advice maybe about to avoid snacking and that sort of thing. Yeah, strong emphasis on texture. This was interesting as well, so perhaps in contrast to the first one, eating more frequently whilst having smaller portions. Oh, sorry, I've just virtually finished up now then, yeah. So this is an interesting one, eating for socialisation, I thought was an interesting one as well then, this idea, because not everybody is into the whole kind of eating experience, so I've heard this before from other people in Osmia that it's not such a big thing for everybody, and so the social aspect I think is really important for other people as well. Yeah, and this idea of acceptance as well, I think is interesting. Yeah, so in terms of the actual analysis of the food rating task, the analysis is quite sort of detailed for that one, so I'll need a little bit more time, but that will hopefully be done very soon. Okay, thanks very much for listening.